Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today I wanted to look at some books with you. I went to our local library and I thought it would be fun to look at them together. So I wanted to see what they had in the ways of bookbinding. Now, I did a no-buy art supply for all of 2022. I will link that playlist in the description box below. As for continuing forward, I am doing a low-buy art supply, and what I've noticed for my preferences and things that I purchase is I buy way too many sketchbooks. Like, sketchbooks are my largest temptation. And I have found that sort of like dry media regular sketchbooks, you can find those in all kinds of formats and price ranges. But when it comes to terms with watercolor sketchbooks, the quality I now want to purchase is in the higher price range. And I'm not talking about cellulose paper or wood pulp paper. I want 100% cotton watercolor paper for my watercolor sketchbooks, for my wet media. And those are in the high range. And since my low buy art supply is capped at a $500 US amount, it's really going to be a trick and a half to get some of the higher quality sketchbooks I want for my art without compromising my bank account. So I thought one of the ways I would do that is take the roll of paper I have. I have a Strathmore mixed media. It's their 500 series. It's their only series that's 100% cotton. And it does come bound in a soft bound and a hard bound. But I bought a roll, again, saving money. And I've done a couple different things. I did the piano hinge binding and I did sort of a folded paper sketchbook. But I really need to work on my binding skills. So I went to the library because, again, low buy art supply, you take advantage of as many resources you can that are free and available to you. And this is one that's free and available to me. So I thought we would look at some of these books. And I haven't looked at them, so I don't know anything about them. This is Bookbinding, a comprehensive guide to folding, sewing, and binding. And it says Franziska Morlock, Miriam, wow, Wazlewski. Okay, I apologize. My pronunciation probably is terrible. This looks fairly new. Planning, publication, the process, format, the paper, design specifications. Okay, the paper on this is thick. Okay, so here is the table of contents. We have basics, how to develop a print project, the book as an object to art, overview binding techniques. Excuse me. So we have folding, wire, glue, thread, binding systems, soft cover, soft books cover. Okay. The hardcover books, additional information, design specifications, appendices, glossary. Okay. So I don't know what year this came out. I will throw up the year. As far as pages, this has over 400 pages. So we have folding and binding techniques. I think the inside is mostly black and white photos. Overview of different covers. Now, I don't plan on delving deep into the world of bookbinding in terms of putting professional covers and having my sketchbooks look like professional sketchbooks that you would purchase on like Etsy or something. I just want enough of the basics and enough to understand so I can make my own, so I can buy like Arches watercolor blocks and start binding my own 100% cotton watercolor sketchbook with like Arches paper, with really, really good paper. That is what I want to do. That is the goal. So I'm trying to see what inspires, what teaches me. Okay, so we have the sizes here, the A's, and we are familiar with the A's. I will link a webpage that has lots of paper sizes if you're curious. Books on demand, estimates, what happens in a bindery. Yeah, I'm not getting into the bindery thing. I just want enough to make sketch, because I go through a sketchbook a month. I don't need to buy thousands of dollars worth of tools. That would not be cost prohibitive in the long run, I don't think, to buy all that stuff. I just want enough to know that I'm doing the right thing. See, this is interesting. Saddle stitches. And I know there are tutorials, bookbinding tutorials on YouTube. YouTube is great for that. But I don't know the names to look up the things. So here we're talking about the misalignment Okay, so they're doing signatures and there's misalignment on the pages. Like, I need to know some of this stuff and I don't know it. So I'm glad this book is talking about it. I'm not interested in stapling just because of the extreme high humidity where I live. I live in a forest by the ocean. Even like steel, like stainless steel staples, like they just get gross with paper. We have more little metal bits and brads and doodads and things that rust. So a lot of metal things that look really, really cool in some binding techniques are not long-term helpful, because I have had like knockoff traveler's notebooks that I've purchased that have been stapled instead of stitched, and they just rust and the rust gets all over the paper and it's gross. So I have to do stitching. Like, I know that's something I have to do. This is interesting, a folding technique here. Lay flat binding. I like when things open up flat. This is like tape. I need to find my thing, and I don't know that it's Coptic binding. I know that that's a really popular one, especially with sketchbooks and professional bound books, but I'm not sure that's my thing. So I need to find my thing, and then once I find it, and that looks really pretty. Once I find it, then that's what I will do from here on out for my watercolor sketchbooks. Because I could easily spend hundreds of dollars per sketchbook, and then I can't buy any mediums for the year because I've spent it all on surfaces. So I have to allocate accordingly. Oh, yeah. Here's the stab binding. I've done stab binding. I did it with a Strathmore 400 tone tan. And the thing with stab binding is that you come in, there's a margin here. So when you go to open it, it doesn't lay flat. Now, I came in too far on mine because it was the first time I did it. So I wasted like maybe a whole inch of paper. But it doesn't lay flat, and you lose this side piece to create on. And then the more pages you open, the smaller your creation space gets because you have all those other pages, if that makes sense. So stab binding, while it's quick and it looks really cool, it's a really nice way to join things. It has too much margin. And again, the laying flat thing. So I bound stuff after I created. If I had bound it and then created, I think I would have been really frustrated. Here's spiral. I don't like spiral. The pages move when you're creating. And then the again, metal pieces. So I'd have to be really careful with the metal pieces. I'm just not introducing metal to my sketchbooks. Binding rings. No. I did some things like this in college for some of my design classes. I even did ribbon to get out of screws, rivets, and eyelets. So these are all the parts that are metal, and they just rust. Like, things just get gross. And then here again, you got that margin you're trying to contend with, and I don't want to do that. I want lay flat things. I want to be able to access the full page if I'm paying for the full page. You know what I mean? Watercolor paper is expensive. This book is beautiful, and I clearly need to read it. Sidebound softcover. See, it shows you how much margin this has. This is amazing. Oh, and this book has multiple bookmarks. I really like this book. It's gorgeous. Soft bound along with spine fold. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out what my thing is. Do-si-do binding, Z binding. That's strange. Standard softcover. This is amazing. Okay, I definitely need to read this, slow down, spend some time with it, bookmark some things, and then figure out what I want to do and what I want that to look like. Because again, I'm not investing in purchasing cover pieces and fabric pieces. I'm not doing that. Here's the glossary. I just need enough to make sketchbooks that I could watercolor on. I'm interested in the art, not so much the bookbinding. Okay, this is a really cool book. Let's look at the next one. This is Bookbinding and Conservation by Hand, a working guide by Laura S. Young. Now, I flipped through this a little bit. This is older. This is from 1995. So bookfinder.com helps cull a lot of used book places like eBay and Amazon and Abe's Books and things. So I go to Bookfinder when I'm looking for gently used books. This is something I want to read, but I don't think it's heavy in illustration. So we have the makeup of a book, bindings, book design, equipping a workshop. I'm not doing that. Materials and their use, basic techniques, general techniques, specific techniques. finishing, other binding styles, protective cases, conservation. So I want my stuff to last, and I know I have to do something, because when you're creating and filling a sketchbook in a month, you're using it for a short amount of time, and then you're storing it for a long amount of time. So I'll probably end up storing some of this stuff for a decade plus, and I need to make sure like mold is an issue. I need to make sure that things are a little bit more protected than my ideas want to do. So I don't want the front and back cover to get absolutely trashed because they're stacked in with other sketchbooks. So this is more a reading one versus like looking at tons and tons of photos. Though I love these illustrations. I do love illustrations. So there are some in here. They're referencing certain things and they've drawn figures for it. Figure 6-23. I appreciate that. This is a lot of reading. This book has how many pages? Over 260 pages. So I need to read this one too. I have a lot of reading to do, folks. It's basically where we're at with the bookbinding and things. So they're making fancy covers. I'm just not investing in a whole other, oh gosh, art design system. I'm not gonna invest hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do this. I kind of just want to get in, get the paper, get the thread, stitch it up, and then get to creating. Because if I'm spending hours and hours making this sketchbook, that's time taken away from filling the sketchbook, and that's where I want to concentrate my attentions. Plus, I know for a fact some of these supplies are pricey, especially if you want the good stuff. Like I was looking, the only thing I was looking to add to my bookbinding thing, and I have like a little tiny cheapy $10 set from Amazon that I don't even think they carry it anymore, is a curved needle. Like I have straight needles, but I don't have a curved one. And like there's curved sewing needles and there's curved bookbinding needles, and the price difference is staggering. So I've got research to do. I've got reading to do. I've got, I'm sure, videos to watch. So braidle binding. See, I don't know anything about any of this, and I don't know the names, so this is good. Tube binding, German tube binding. I'm not familiar with that either. It looks really cool. And maybe someday I will get interested in some of the more fancy things, but I don't, my time is so limited right now. Like I can squeeze out maybe 3 hours a day for creating, and that's it. So I've got to be real quick because it cuts into my other parts of my day if I'm doing other things. So, ornamental tools, other finishing tools. Yeah, some of this is wants versus needs, and I really have to discern the difference and stick to that and not deviate, and make sure I don't start over purchasing for something else for a whole new thing. Okay, other decorative techniques, onlaying, other binding styles, limp binding. See, I don't know what that is. No idea. Yap binding and edges, vellum binding. This is amazing. Okay, this is a book to read. Protective cases, and I probably won't do that because that'll just seal in more mold. So I need to read this. This is an older book, but I like it. I need to read it. Okay, let's look at another one. This is creative bookbinding. We're not even getting a name on this cover here. This is from 1963. So University of Washington Press. Okay. Let me see if there's a name somewhere on here. I don't want to flash you all my library's information, but I will if I have to. Let's see. Oh, Pauline Johnson. Okay. Thank you, Pauline. We appreciate you and your hard work. Okay. So this is a much older book, but a lot of things don't change. So I would say that bookbinding is one of those art and design and crafting creator skill sets that doesn't age, like age out. Like certain things have become popular and they're a fad with creating and making, but I would say bookbinding is one of those ageless ones. So it doesn't deter me from looking at older references, because I feel like it just doesn't age out. It doesn't expire. It doesn't look dated. Okay, so we have book design, parts of a book, materials, tools, equipment, working procedures, simple constructions and binding procedures, decorated papers, leather, book repair, supply sources. That's probably dated. Oh my gosh, is it like Rosetta Stone? What are we looking at? The Gutenberg? What are we doing here? We are the history of bookbinding, so there may be references to the Gutenberg Bible here. French manuscripts. Wow. Okay, so I did not do enough calligraphy. Beep. Okay. The Odyssey. Did I read somewhere that the Iliad and the Odyssey was found in like what they consider to be like a trash heap? Okay. I think I read that somewhere. But that's where it was found, and they placed it and put it all back together and then published it. Okay. Proportion and sizes of books, parts of a book. So this is, I'm thinking this is beginner. All saw hammer, tin snips, don't have those. Tin sheets, don't have those. Oh, I love it. Look at her. Hello, lovely lady. All right, we're gonna flash back in time. Look at this monster. Oh, I love it. Okay. I'm trying not to get too excited. Hands, pasting, tools. This may not be the most helpful book to me. A book press. I don't have any book presses. I have heavy books I can lay on top of a book being bound for weight. I have bricks, I think, somewhere that I've painted on. I have random rocks in the yard that I've saved for painting projects. They're big quartz beauties, but I could use those for weight if I had to. Simple folders and files. How interesting. I don't know how helpful this one's going to be, but this is really cool to look at. Folding screen. See, if I don't have to stitch paper, that would be nice too. Stand-up card. Notepads. Yeah. I don't know. I need to read and research. I'm not doing any accordion things. I know for a fact that accordion style isn't my jam, because you have, when you create on an accordion sketchbook, you really have to think long-term horizontally for the theme and the curation of that entire sketchbook. Like, it has to have a flow where one page leaks and bleeds and designs and creates onto the next page, and it has to have sort of a movement where it all goes together and it's all cohesive. And my brain doesn't really want to do that connected. Like, it wants the pages to be individual. So I have no desire in accordion things. They look cool. And when I see people create on them, I'm like, good for them. They made it amazing. But I'm not interested in that. I'm getting set in my ways. Or maybe I just know what I like. We'll go with that one. That one sounds nice. See, look, what are they doing? What are you doing? She's got a mallet. She's got an X-Acto. We got threads. We have pliers here. This is crazy pants. I can't do things that take hours. Someday. Someday I may have more time. See, looks like the stab binding here. The Japanese binding. It's such a nice binding, and it's quick and it's fast and it looks cool, but oh my god, do you lose like a margin of space? Then it lays weird. Decorative papers. I'm not interested in decorative papers. You can spend tons and tons of money on like a beautiful piece of marbled paper that somebody created with swirls with gold, and it's like, you know, 10 to 100 bucks a page. I'm not doing that. My budget says no. I'd rather paint and draw on the cover. Okay. Paraffin prints. Oh, they're really teaching all the things, aren't they? Stick prints. Oh, that's cool. Using leaves. String prints. Stencil prints. So this definitely has cool design ideas using things with nature and stuff. Cutout prints. That looks really neat. I like the geometric. It kind of reminds me of a quilt. If you are into that sort of design and creation. Painted papers. Ink and folded papers. Okay. I don't know how much I'm going to get out of this book, but this is a really neat one as well. Book repair. Oh yeah, see, and it's got to be built to last, because if it doesn't last, what am I doing with my time? Okay, let's look at the last one. This is the Bookbinding Handbook, Simple Techniques and Step-by-Step Projects by Sue Doggett. Okay, hello Sue. Contents. Okay, when did this book come out? 2008 was when it was published, and it was reprinted in 2012 and 2014. Okay. Contents: introduction, folded books, pamphlet sewing, multi-section sewing, attaching covers and boards, variation of the fold, containers, the project, index. So this has almost 190 pages. This is spirally bound. I always like, one of those things my brain does is, how is a book bound book about bookbinding bound? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a book about bookbinding, and they chose to do a spiral. Like, I think it's interesting. Okay, sorry. Book words. Okay, kettle stitch, backbone, backboard. Oh, so they're trying to teach me things. Thank you, I appreciate it. Tools and equipment. I have some of these things. Okay. Materials. See, it's not the easiest to open every page. Paper. Okay. All the fancy papers, machine-made paper. Oh, and somebody used this with glue nearby. Okay. They're pretty. They're pretty decorative papers. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, sorry about that. All these books are different sizes. So, folded books. Okay. Folded. How to fold an accordion pocket fold book. Okay, step-by-step instructions. Sometimes it's nice to read the instructions, because sometimes in a video you're like slowing it down, you're pausing it, you're constantly trying to play back. Sometimes it's nice to have these things in printed form so you can really go at your own pace. If you get interrupted, it's not a big deal. If you live in a rural area that's common to power outages, trying to watch videos teaching you things can be difficult. The everlasting folding book. I've never even heard of some of these things. Experimenting with folds. I appreciate that. This is really trying to teach me step by step here. Pamphlet sewing. See, and some of these things I think are meant for books with not a lot of pages. So I need to think in terms of doing a page a day. So something at least 30 pages. If you're dividing by 4, because it's folded, so you're using the front, back, like the signature's folded, so divisible by 4, so it'd be 32 pages. Yeah, and some of these things might be a little thinner, or I could do multiple pamphlets. I don't know. It's a month of creating versus a decade of storing, so I need to figure out how these things are going to store long term and sit, and I just don't want them to get nasty or molded or rusty, or I don't want them to fall apart. Like, that defeats the whole purpose of binding in the first place. Japanese style sewing. Yeah, here's the stab binding again. It looks like they're binding a thing of butter. It's a cute drawing. Other stab stitches. See, I didn't even think about that. Attaching covers and boards. See, again, there's these eyelets and rust. I'm telling you. Attaching boards. I don't know if I'm going to do all that, because you got to make sure everything's acid free, and then you have to get the glue and the glue brushes, and like, that just sounds like a lot of money. You know what I mean? Case binding. I just don't think I want to invest that much money into this. I just want enough to create and go. Limp paper binding with slotted spine. Fair enough. I don't know. I don't know some of these things. Flag book. Venetian blind book. Single star book. Like, how do you create on some of these? Some of these look like just for the sake of binding and being creative, but I don't think they're that usable for artists trying to create on the page. You know what I mean? Containers. Portfolio. See, now, if you were going into a design or art school program and you bound your own portfolio, ooh, yes. That would be amazing. That would definitely look really cool to the people reviewing your work. The projects. You're in the projects. These look like almost like photograph albums or scrapbook albums with these like huge rivulet things. I don't know the names of any of the things, so sorry. I'm learning. I'm a beginner and this is what it sounds like. It's horrible for everybody involved. Okay, they're making a journal. I'm here for it. Scrapbook, here for it. This book is cool. Star book. I'll have to go page by page. I am going section by section. I'm not showing you every individual page, but I'll have to go page by page to see if any of these are applicable or hold my interest or look like they'd be something that would work long term for me. A poem book. Okay, but look how like tiny. Some of these aren't for sketchbooks. And that's okay. Like journaling folks need the bookbinding. People that bookbind as an art form need really cool bookbinding things. So these are the books I got from the library. Our library had some other ones. I wasn't sure and I was in a hurry, so I only grabbed 4. But yes, so I hope you enjoyed this. Just a little quick art reads with me. I am going to be binding probably in July, and I will show that process and I will talk more in the summer about what I've decided on and what that's going to look like with the paper roll that I have, the Strathmore 500. And then we will move on from there because my goal this year is to fill every single sketchbook I have in my cabinet. So going into 2026, I'm not going to have any sketchbooks at all. So I'm going to have to buy a bunch for my December Surface purchases at the end of this year. And I'm going to have to configure, like, how am I buying 12 sketchbooks, one for every month, if that's how I'm going to do it, under $500 and still leave some money for purchasing mediums. Like if I run out of ink or I need some other like colored pencils or something, like I need to have some money left over. So we are going to have to get into the thick of it, you and I, of trying to find watercolor sketchbooks that are affordable and quality. Yeah. Yep. Because I'm just not, there's some really beautiful ones on Etsy, and it's like, I know for the time and the quality and everything they're putting into, they're great prices, but for my budget, they just don't fit, especially for the amount I create in. Like filling a sketchbook a month just isn't, like, that's a lot of money. So yeah, bookbinding. I'm not becoming a bookbinding channel. I'm just going to slowly incorporate little bits and tie that into my low-buy art supply and how I create. So I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. I hope your weekend is wonderful, and I will talk to you later. Bye.